Aloha everyone, it's Alana. Thank you guys so much for coming back to watch this video. And before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys to check out my website, sincerelyalana.weebly.com. There you will find the previous videos as well as resources to Pacific Islander organizations and things such as mental health, physical health, things like that, so that way you guys stay more informed about these topics. So today we are going to be talking about inequality. And inequality is a very broad topic. It can go into many different branches and topics within inequality. It's very huge. I'm sure you guys know about it. But today I am going to be talking specifically about institutionalism and why inequality is maintained and how. Institutionalism is when inequality is maintained through institutions such as school, the legal system, government, and even religion. So today I will be using those as examples to discuss institutionalism and how it maintains inequality. So first is school. School is really also dependent on geographical location. So if you look into lower income populations and higher income populations, they're usually within the same region or town or city. Look at low income cities, communities. Obviously they don't have a lot of income. So when they pay taxes, there's not a lot of money that goes towards school or repairing roads or things like that. Look at these high income communities where they have a bunch of money that's going back to the school and the government within that community. What does that mean? High income pays for a better education. Low income, they meet the bare requirements to be considered high school, kindergarten, pre-K, whatever education level. Which is really unfortunate, because this means that the lower education that you have, the less opportunity that you have to move out of your socioeconomic class. And that's what maintains inequality. When you see that these high income education, higher level classes, they really do provide more resources, opportunities to go and pursue higher education, to have the abilities to really compete with other high schools, education levels for these Ivy League schools. They have more access to technology and just overall better, well-rounded information. Lower income, they don't have the best technology, so that's already decreasing their competitiveness to get into higher education. And also, when they're just meeting the basic requirements, they don't have the opportunities or really resources to provide them with assistance in going to college. So if they're not going to college, if they don't get into the best colleges, that's also decreasing their likelihood of getting a better job, which would help them really step up and out of that socioeconomic class. Furthermore, let's look at inequality on a global level instead of just so community and localized. Globally, we see oftentimes what sociologists like to call the global north and the global south. Global south is where a lot of the developing nations are. So if you don't know what developing nations are, they are the ones that face extreme poverty, really awful living conditions, and they're just underdeveloped. When you look at the global north, you see Europe, US, where more of the better off countries that are for the most part financially stable and have lower rates of poverty. Why is this relevant? Well, there's this thing called neocolonialism, where it's whole nations, they're oppressed and exploited through the use of global debt, privatization, and austerity programs. So I know we talked briefly about colonialism before and how that came with racism and slavery and things like that. Things that really started inequality. Neocolonialism is more modern colonialism that's expressed in different ways. Like I said, privatization, global debt, and it maintains this inequality and imbalance globally. So developing nations, they take out loans through the World Bank. And the World Bank makes its money through the accruing debt and interest from these developing nations. And really, who benefits from the World Bank and these debts and interest? It's the people who run the World Bank, which is maintained mainly by the US and then Europe and these other better off countries and nations. And what does that go to show you? That shows that the people in power are the ones who are making the most. They're the ones who are not going to give up their power, because why would they? If they're making money, they're better off, then they don't really care about these other countries or nations. They're just doing the bare minimum to help them. And that can be seen through all forms of inequality, all forms of institutionalism, and even in the system of religion. Now, I know religion is a pretty sensitive topic to talk about, but I think it's one that should be addressed. And before I go into too much detail, I think that I should mention something that really stuck with me that my professor said. It's not religion and the faith itself that's bad or corrupt or evil or whatever. It's the history of it. So the faith itself is quite pure. In every religion, the faith is beautiful, it's pure, there's a lot of good intent there. But when it turns ugly and, controversial, is the history of religion and how people try to spread it and perpetuate it. So, Western religions, such as Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, and even Hinduism, they all emphasize belief in a god or many gods, and praying and acceptance of one's status. If we look at the caste system, let's start with the caste system. At the top is the priests and the academics, the people who are really smart, and the reason being is that they are seen as the closest to God because they have the most knowledge, and they're the smartest. Go to the very bottom of the caste system pyramid and you have the Dalits, which are the untouchables and are more seen closer to animals because they have the dirtiest jobs and they're not really considered human, so to speak. Now, if we look at this pyramid, money moves up from the bottom to the top. And who's at the top? The people who are in power and the people who are making the most off of the work from the other people in the pyramid. Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, you're often asked to donate because that's being a good person. In all of these religions, they emphasize that if you're a good person, then your time will come. So donations, and the donations are kept within the church. They go towards the clergy and the whole church system, rather than giving as much back to the community. And they don't tell you that if you're in a bad situation to stop giving money. Like, no matter what, it's important that you give money and do your part to donate in order to be considered a good person in the eyes of the church and therefore in the eyes of God. But in doing this, you're also told that if you pray, if you do your best, if you donate, if you follow these rules, then you're gonna get what you want or what you've been asking and praying for. But if you think about it, it's really just sitting and waiting for your time to come and for you're accepting your situation. Obviously there are people that pray and actually go after what they're doing, and there's very successful people who believe in these religions. But the overall history and really just the record of how it has been established and the overall history is that it's really accepting the position. Now compared to Eastern religions such as Buddhism and Confucianism, I think we're really able to see the difference if we look at the Asian immigrants who have come to the US who are considered the model minority. Now these religions, they really emphasize a set of rules and beliefs that look more into yourself and how to be a good person for your family, your society, and create your own destiny. And I think that's really powerful. I think that's something that even today, like Western religions and religious people are starting to adopt, is the belief in yourself to be able to create your own destiny and set of circumstances. But if we look at these Asian immigrants, they're considered the model minority because their religion tells them to conform to society in order to better themselves. So when they come to the U.S., you know, they're conforming to our set of rules. They're conforming to our American dream beliefs where if you want it and you go for it, you can do it. Globally, they're also the people making the most money. They're the people making the biggest moves, and they're often the most self-reliant. So, you know, comparing these two types of religions and what they believe in, Eastern, they don't really accept their circumstances. They more accept the rules and able to get to what it is that they want and where they want to be to change their circumstances. Whereas Western, it's more power driven and acceptance, and you know, it's more of the maintenance of the system of power that's really in play. For example, it's gonna be kind of tricky as well because it's gonna talk more about gender inequality, which I will talk more about in another video, but it has to do with the workplace. And that's something that I think is very relevant today and very apparent, especially with the whole Kavanaugh debate, which is, it's really mind-blowing. I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding it right now, and it's really disheartening because I think the whole situation is telling women and girls that, you know, if you come out about being sexually harassed, people aren't going to believe you, which further emphasizes the reason why people don't come out about it right away. And one thing that really stuck with me and relates to what I'm going to be talking about right now, through this debate, I read an article that said that Trump Jr. had made the comment that if women, something along the lines of, if women can't handle harassment, then they shouldn't be in the workforce. And that statement right there really tells me that these traditional gender roles are still totally just ingrained into the minds of so many men and people in power. And it's really sad. You know, these gender roles are basically saying that women don't belong in the workplace at all, they belong in the kitchen. And it's just, the whole situation is just really unfortunate to me. But besides that, you know, in the workplace, there's just this huge gender discrimination and sexual harassment, sexual assault, besides the obvious wage gap that's present. I mean, yes, minorities do still make less in the workplace, but minority men still make more than minority women. And that's why when it comes to the workplace, gender inequality is the biggest type of inequality that exists. So, like I said, we'll be talking about that at another time, but I definitely needed to bring it into this conversation because it is a form of institutionalism where the people in power in the workplace, usually men, usually older white men, you know, it's these gender roles that are still etched into their heads that make them, that make it okay for them to permit this kind of discrimination and inequality. And they're not going to give up their power. Like, nobody in all forms of institutionalism, whether it's global, domestic, local, workplace, school board, you know, it's just the people in power who are really the ones maintaining the inequality. Wrapping up, I just wanted to restate that inequality is everywhere. There's a lot of different factors that can go into it, and it's very dynamic and complex, and we're going to have many opportunities to talk more about inequality and the different branches of it. But today I just thought it was really important for you guys to know how inequality is maintained, and the number one player is institutionalism. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you did, also please leave a comment, and you can also suggest what else you would like me to talk about and discuss. Be sure to check out the website sincerelyalana.weebly.com for more updates on different resources and upcoming events, and also be sure to subscribe so you know when the next video comes out. So thank you guys so much. Mahalo!